Well, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Thursday. My name is Rob Romanowski. I'm the Director of Sales Operations with 3HTI. And today, this webinar originally titled called Adding Flexibility When Using Multiple CAD Systems. And Paul has it titled Collaboration in Creo, but pretty much it's the same thing. What we're going to look at today is we're going to look at a couple of things. The main thing we're going to look at is Creo's Unite technology, which allows you to basically open and modify any CAD system using Creo. So you don't need to get some type of third-party translator, which is really cool. And there's also another capability within Creo called flexible modeling that if you're not familiar with, pay close attention to, because this is really, it's a big time saver, and it's a game changer for Creo in and of itself in the CAD industry. I remember when it first came out, probably about 11 years ago. And it's funny how people are really busy with a lot of focus on meeting deadlines. A lot of times they don't know what actually is in the base license, base package of Creo. So everything you're going to see today is in the base package of Creo. So if you're already a Creo customer, Creo user, hopefully this will be very informative and helpful to you. And if you're using another CAD system and you're looking to accomplish more with what you're doing in your design and engineering, hopefully you will find this very informative. So Paul, without further ado, take it away, my friend.
All right. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Rob. So this is
as always.
Yeah, it's definitely always fun to be on. And this is a pretty important topic. It's, we talk to a lot of different extensions that are helpful. Some people will find very important, while other people don't really care, right? Like some people don't do any type of flow analysis, for example. But collaboration is something that basically everybody has to do at some point in the day, right? Either you're working internally with people, you're working externally with partners, suppliers, whatever it might be. We have to be able to collaborate. And we have this built into a lot of different tools that we work with in Creo. There's a couple main ones, right? So I'm going to go through and first and foremost, just touch on some of the challenges we see around collaborating, especially with internal, external teams, right? I'm going to go through our solutions, capabilities, walk through demonstration, and then talk about how we're going to move forward from there in terms of benefits, right? And the first thing is there's just difficulty in general being able to collaborate effectively, specifically whenever it comes to working with others that are operating in different CAD systems, right? It could be tough to share data, it could be even tougher to make changes or edit things down the road, not to mention the challenges that go along with managing all the data or having updates. These can all be struggles, right? Whether it's internal or external, you need to be able to work with disparate tools and data. And we need to be able to do it in a way that's quick, it's accurate. Many times we've seen companies who end up having multiple licenses of different CAD systems at the same time. As you can imagine, that starts to get pretty expensive. And not only that, it's very difficult to incorporate and effectively work with all these different CAD types and work them all simultaneously. And really what we've seem to see out in industry is that projects get very expensive, or they get, even worse, delayed, right? I've seen people spend a month trying to get just the right file format from an outside vendor, right? And they're just waiting around for that to happen. And that's time you can't get back. And whenever you're trying to get things out the door faster, all these things can be roadblocks and things that we really took into account and built out specific tools that help with this. So I'm going to be going over mainly two today. First and foremost, Unite technology and flexible modeling, which helps us a lot with working with data that we're bringing in. Right. So first and foremost, let's talk a little bit more around Unite capabilities. So this is something that we have embedded right into Creo for being able to help you work outside of the company, right? Or outside of Creo. So first and foremost, you have the ability to do file import. It's something that we've had as part of Creo for a long time, obviously, but it's actually something that we've done a lot over the past couple of releases with Creo to improve the functionality. We make it much more straightforward to do this, and it might be in other systems. And really what we're able to do is basically just one click, convert non-PTC data into Creo objects. It's very strong at doing it. That doesn't break the data in many cases. It works for whether it's native data from another system, it could be from SolidWorks, NX, CATIA, whatever, or it could be non-native, right? It could be neutral file formats. If you're going in step, I just bring that in, convert it, and work with it going forward as Creo object. Or on the other side of it, you can do what's called a file open. It's a little bit different from doing a file import. This is really useful for native files like SolidWorks or NX or Inventor, CATIA, what it allows you to do is bring it into Creo and keep it within its native format. You don't do a conversion, you just leave it right in this context and you bring it right into your assemblies, have it in your bill of materials. So a lot of times whenever you're pulling in non-native data, you could have issues with it being able to import properly if the data isn't necessarily saved properly, if there's any issues in that conversion process, that could be an issue that you have to deal with. But we have the ability to do this file open where you're not worrying about that conversion process, but you can still do all of your normal work in context with that model. So like Rob mentioned, these are capabilities that just come right out of the box with Creo Parametric. And now from here, we have collaboration extensions that also some of are just right out of the base with Creo, but they enable a couple other functions that you're going to be able to work with here. So first one is save as. So if you're collaborating with an outside vendor that needs your data into a different file format, we can do save as into many different file types that you can either share out with others or just have in your own database. And the other thing that we have here is having updates pushed automatically, even if something is residing in a native format or even after it's been converted. You have the ability to automatically detect and update whenever a model is out of date. So say, for example, a supplier sends a new version of the model, what you can do is detect and update that right from within the model or the assembly. Now, even if you converted and made changes to the model, we can actually still update that original file and not have to redo all the changes that were made. So Creo is very uniquely positioned to be able to do that, and very strong capability that a lot of people are using to do, and really helps you to do that collaboration and also consolidation of the different systems, right? You don't have to have 5 different licenses to work with data from 5 different sources. You can just do that all and work with it right from within Creo. So these 2 capabilities are specific to what we have in our collaboration extensions. So right out of the base with Creo, you have this for SolidWorks and Inventor, which a lot of people, that's going to be the majority of what you're collaborating with. But we have some other extensions that also play in with other CAD systems as well. So really helping you to do that type of process in a very painless way as well. So collaborate, work back and forth between those, and all done using Unite. So I'll go through and show a little bit about what that looks like. But I do want to take just a moment here and talk about a tool that goes really hand in hand with what we're doing from collaboration and what we do with Unite with what we have in the flexible modeling tool, or FMX. Is something that, again, is just right out of the base with Creo, something that you may not use right now, or maybe you've seen the tab for it, but you've never actually worked with it or done anything with it. The idea with that extension is that you're able to take geometry that you have or that you're working with and quickly being able to make changes regardless of the past in the model. Doesn't matter how the model was created, whether it came from a different CAD system or even what it's tied to. Very helpful if you need late stage changes, you just need to move something around very quickly. It's really what flexible modeling is uniquely designed for. And first of all, it's very easy to use. It's built right into Creo, uses the same interface, and it works seamlessly in with your normal parametric design capabilities that you're already using, but it allows you to quickly select on geometry, but at the same time, do it in an intelligent manner, right? You're not just clicking on an edge or a face or a surface. You're grabbing on a boss or a cut, right? And have all, whenever you make changes to it, you can have all the adjacent geometry update for it. So in the process, what you're doing is you're taking pieces of the model and you're recognizing the geometry. And once you have those features recognized, you're able to change them, move them around, modify parameters, and all of that's done regardless of how the model was built out initially, right? It could be any type of model. We don't require really much information to get started into that process. And the next step is really just having all of your changes in your normal 3D CAD modeling and editing to move features around, rotate things. And once you've created out these features, there's options, of course, for propagating those throughout the model as well. All right, so with that, I'm going to go through and show a quick demonstration that uses a little bit of Unite as well as the flexible modeling. I'm going to go through and do this on some SolidWorks data that we have. But you can imagine this would work the same for any other system that we want to tie it in with here as well. So it could be NX, CATIA, Inventor, really you name it. So if you have any questions on anything that I've mentioned so far or anything that comes up throughout the demo, feel free to drop that in the Q&A as well. But for our demonstration here, I'm going to be opening up a Laser Z lawnmower design. So go ahead and pull up the assembly. And in particular, just go ahead and work here on the frame for the design. And first and foremost, what I need to be able to do is work with the part that's been designed in a different system. In this case, it's a part that's been built out in SolidWorks. But what we're able to do is directly work with and actually just open, again, that native SolidWorks part right from within Creo. So you can do that with any of those other native files, any neutral file formats. So cutting the cost of having to manage different systems, we can really just get our work done right here from within Creo. And I can show doing a little bit about work on this as well, right? So the first thing that I do here is convert it to sheet metal, which just helps us design as if we built it in Creo. And even the model right here doesn't have any feature history, right? It just has basically a SolidWorks ID and a couple datum planes that you're working from here, but that's all we need, right? So we can go through and just do some standard flex modeling capabilities, what we would call direct modeling. So even though the model that we brought in has no feature history, Creo can recognize the geometry in the model, like this pattern here. And from that point, be able to go through and make the changes that you need to. If you need to increase the number of members, change the spacing, go through and build that out. And then everything that we do from that point populates over in the model tree. And then from that point, you can just do some more modeling. In this case, because I'm working with the sheet metal piece, we have some sheet metal capabilities, but this could just as easily be a standard model. It really doesn't matter what type of 3D model that you want to bring in. Here, I'm just using some standard Creo sketching techniques to lay out a form feature. You can go ahead and mirror that over to the other side as well. And really what you're seeing is just some standard Creo modeling, right? Even though the part started off in a different system, you can work with it, move forward with it, utilizing all the different direct modeling that you have in flexible modeling, right? So regardless of the past there as well. All right, setting this looking pretty good here. Got some good features built out, and really sheet metal design in Creo is very robust. We have our flat wall tool that we could use on this as well to create multiple flat walls, all just from one feature, right? You could do the walls in the front, you could do the tabs on the side here, and they maintain the same wall dimensions that we have in the front. So just as easy to work with those as well. If you want to change the dimensions, add a taper associated with them, right? You can go through and make those changes accordingly. And everything will update for that. And if we take a look back in the overall assembly, you can see that everything that we've done here on the part side is going to affect what we did back here as well. And so that's looking pretty good. And now moving on from this point, there's another file that we've been provided, possibly from a partner or supplier that we need to pull in and use here in our design. So here we'll be working within one of our sub-assemblies. And in this case, it's another SolidWorks part. So we'll just go ahead and take that and assemble it in similar to how we did with the first part. Go ahead and bring that into the context of our assembly here. Let's tie it in with the default coordinate system in that case. And you can even drag it back in the feature history if you'd like to, right? We can design our other features based off of this if we'd like to as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and start to work with this. And you can see here what I'm using is a copy geometry feature in this case. And what that allows me to do is have a little bit more control over what we're actually tying in here for this non-PTC data. So one thing that we can do is set up a notification. So whenever there's any updates, I mean, the data changes in any way, we're able to get notified and we can go through and make any changes that might be necessary around that as well. And you could just as easily have the system automatically update the features if you'd like to, but you have options in that regard. So what I'm able to do from this point now is once I have this in, any of my other features or my dimensions based off of that copy geometry that we pulled in from the data external, we can go through and change. So not only are we able to bring in the model into the assembly, but we're able to design directly off of it. If there's any changes, we'll be notified of it. And we want to make sure that our belt here is accounting for the new model that we brought in. So go ahead and do the same thing that we did for the first part here. So go ahead and get this added in. And this, again, will make sure that we get notified if there's any changes to the non-native geometry that we get supplied. And that's what we'll do, same as before, just go through and align our parts with the new references that we brought in. It's just making sure, first and foremost, that we aren't going to have things not line up properly when we go to assemble these parts out on the shop floor, because we're communicating with those partners. We're able to bring in those non-native parts in order to design around, and we're able to do that without having to export out a neutral file format. We don't have to manage secondary data formats. You can just work from the native format as well. All right, so I'm pretty much happy with where we're at there. We got the non-native geometry. We integrated that in with the design, built our features off of it. Probably feeling pretty good, but what always happens at this point, right? It's 2 weeks later, and then you get a change notice from the supplier to say, hey, we got some new versions of the parts. Well, what does that do to everything that we built off of that in Creo? Well, again, we could just go ahead and bring this in, update those in our file explorer, and go ahead and open the assembly and see what changed. Right. So looking at the assembly, we actually get 2 notices that we have outdated placements or features here in the assembly. Because remember, whenever we set the model up, we said to give it notifications whenever there's changes. So really what this allows us to do here is go through and see exactly what's outdated, what's been changed. And then from there, simply have it update. And you can move on to the next one. Do the same thing with our other outdated feature. You can just have easily had things automatically update, but really you have control in that regard. All right, it's a very useful process that we have to work through there as well. And that's all utilizing our Unite technology. Right. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop those in. Just want to wrap up just by briefly going over some of the main value that we really get to working with this in the process, right? And of course, it's about establishing enhanced collaboration. We're using all the different functionality from open to import to save as, updating, really start to take in that non-PTC data and work with it however you need. And on top of that, have the ability to use tools like flexible modeling to make direct edits to any of that 3D data that you brought in. You can really collaborate with anyone essentially. And then on the other side of it is the ability to consolidate multi-CAD data. You don't want to have to purchase and manage all these different systems. Let's just give you the ability to work with them right inside of Creo. And that's really the main idea with this, is really start to incorporate any of that data, Creo or not, and do what you need to do. Leave it in its native format, make direct modeling edits to it, all of that through the use of the tools that we have here in Creo, just to help you create better designs, regardless where the data comes from. Right, so that covers everything that I wanted to touch on. So I can pass it over to you, Rob.
Excellent. I love a quick and informative webinar. So great job, Paul. As always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to respond to the email that was sent to you regarding the invitation to this regarding the email invitation to this webinar. I will have the recording sent out most likely tomorrow for you guys to look at your leisure. And if you have want to see a more detailed demonstration on this or anything else regarding Creo or PTC solutions like Windchill or even augmented reality or systems engineering with Codebeamer, just let us know. So thanks again, everybody, for being on. Enjoy the rest of your week. And Paul, thank you again. Take care, everyone.